Best defensive boxer. Um, Now, obviously, the modern era, we're going to talk about Mayweather. We're going to talk about James Lights Out Tony, who was an amazing defensive fighter. We're going to talk about Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker. There's so many, and the list goes on. But I'm going to talk about somebody who's a bit different, and I want you guys to research this individual. His name was Nicolino Lucci. He was an Argentinian junior welterweight. Okay, phenomenal defensive fighter, Argentinian, phenomenal defensive fighter. And the thing, he was very unconventional in his preparation because he used to smoke a hell of a lot to the point that, you know, he used to smoke prior to fights, etc. And he didn't really live the life of a fighter, but it was very effective in his defensive strategy because nobody could hardly touch him. And what I want you to do is research what I'm saying. He had 114 fights, of which 4 he lost, and I think he drew about 17. Okay, and the height of his success was when he fought for a junior welterweight title against a fighter named Paul Fuji. Okay, the fight was in Tokyo, 1968. The thing about Paul Fuji was knocking out everybody, knocking them out, stopping them, putting people to sleep. So obviously, and because Lucci never didn't have a high knockout rate. I think it was 10% knockout rate. Everybody thought that it was basically set up to get knocked out. But if you watch this fight, Fuji was really trying to knock him out, put everything into his punches, of which, you know, Nicolino Lucci, okay, just slipped him, made him miss, made him go off balance, couldn't lay a glove on him, and in the 9th round, okay, basically stopped him. Didn't come out for the 10th round. So that is, you know, apart from the fighters, what we don't know, we know the modern day fighters, I would go for Nicolino Lucci of the past fighters, who absolutely had an amazing defense. Now, there's loads of defensive fighters. Okay, some were good, some weren't good. Some, you know, would not get hit and not make fighters pay. Okay, some obviously carved a great career through being defensive and being able to counter punch their fighters who they were fighting. So yeah, that's my kind of best defensive fighter. You know, it's all down to choice. Okay, so that's my first one. Number 2, best body puncher. Again, in history, there's been loads of amazing body punchers. Okay, Ricky Hatton was an amazing body puncher. There was a heavyweight called Bob Fitzsimmons, who was an amazing body puncher. Roberto Duran, Juliano Chavez. But I'm going for Mike McCullum, fellow Jamaican, who was known as a body snatcher. Okay, and the thing about Mike McCullum, if you watch his tapes, you know, his punches were accumulative, meaning that he wouldn't generally put you away with one punch, but over the period of rounds, these punches, what he was soaking into your body and your solar plexus and around your body area, they were accumulative. So over a period of time, once it got to like middle rounds, you would see a lot of the fighters' energy draining away from them. And that's when you would start seeing Mike McCullum start attacking the head, okay, and generally stopping a lot of his opponents, draining them, taking the energy out of them, draining the battery out of them. That's my number 2. Number 3, my best trilogy of all time. There's been a lot of trilogies in the heavyweight division, middleweight division, okay, but my best trilogy, what I remember, was got to be definitely Gatti and Ward, okay, all 3 fights, okay. Gatti won, in which Ward won that. Gatti 2, okay, which Gatti won that, and the final one which they had, Gatti won. Okay, if you look at that fight, it may not be what we call a coach's dream fight, but you know, you watch that fight, you see energy, they both wanted it, they're both going toe to toe, they both get hurt in the fight, have to come off the canvas in these fights and really put their health on the line. Okay, and you know, that's the best trilogy what I've seen through being in boxing and studying boxing. Okay, and here's the other thing to remember: they fought twice in 1 year. Okay, they fought in May 2002 and June 2002. Okay, which was the first two fights, and the last one what they had was in June 2003. Sorry, May 2002 and November 2002, and then in June 2003. So, you know, the wars what they had, they were quite close together. So you can imagine it was a different era. There's no way I can imagine that fighters of this era would have such challenging and tough fights, and then, you know, have a trilogy, have the fight number one, then fight number two a few months after, and then have the number three fight again a few months after that, because those were grueling fights what took a lot out of them. So that's my three for today. My best defensive fighter of all time. Not of all time, but what is different to the modern day fighters. Best body puncher, okay, Mike McCullum. And the best trilogy, what I have seen, what, you know, has so much action in, has everything related to boxing in, has the blood, has the guts, has the stamina, has the power. See both guys go down and get up, and you know, the one what showed the will to win. Okay, and it's a great advert for boxing, but not for boxing coaching, but for boxing.